Influences of rock music on children. Rock and roll is the devil's music. People that listen to metal are angry and unstable. I don't understand all that violence in that hip hop you listen to. I'm sure you've heard similar words, especially if you're a fan of any of these genres. The problem is these are all negative connotations based on common misconceptions and broad and generalized biased perceptions. Music is far more important and positive than people are led to believe. Music and the influence of specific genres and types of music are both positive in their impact and essential to human development from childhood to adulthood. I have researched the positive impact of music in general as well as specifically regarding rock, metal, and hip hop genres, being that those seem to be the most commonly targeted. I also have first-hand experience with music due to being a musician myself, which has offered me a unique insider perspective on the matter. First, I will explore the common negative misconceptions about music. Second, I will provide the evidence that counters these arguments. And finally, I will discuss why music and development go hand in hand and why music is so important to future generations. Music and the influence of music and specific genres are both positive in their impact and essential to human development from childhood to adulthood. It's no secret rock, metal, and hip-hop music have gotten a bad name and a bad reputation, which has resulted in a biased attitude and even attacks and campaigns rallying against those forms of music. From Elvis in the 50s shaking his hips, to 1984 when Tipper Gore, Susan Baker, Pam Howard, and Sally Neves formed a committee called the PRMC, which stood for Parents Music Resource Center, which launched a campaign calling for censorship in music out of fear that lyrical content of songs at the time would have a negative influence on their children, which would lead their children to do bad things. In 2015 Newsweek article, which revisited the PRMC, Frank Zappa was quoted as saying, "It was an ill-conceived piece of nonsense which fails to deliver any real benefits to children, infringes on the civil liberties of people that aren't children, and promises to keep the courts busy for years." Essentially what he was saying was it was a giant waste of time, and he was calling out the fact that the motivation behind it wasn't based on actuality, but rather the people that were behind the campaign, it was based on their fears and their misconceptions. In CNN article called Heavy Metal and Violence More Than a Myth by James Donkin in 2008, he explored all these attacks that music has seen over the years more closely, and one of the things that he said was that it was an ill-conceived piece of nonsense. It's a fire the international media has been happy to flame, quick to draw links between various acts of savagery and heavy metal, even as in the case of the Columbine shootings, that the evidence points to the contrary. The key point being that the evidence points to the contrary. But it's not a stretch to assume that fear and irrationality can help shape these negative perceptions and attempts to blame art for tragic realities. But in no instance in history has any accusation such as this held up in the court of law, because there's never been concrete evidence or proof or irrefutable proof to back up these claims, which again reiterates that it's the fear and the bias that's driving it, not the reality that they're claiming it could lead to. The fact that the results to connect violence and negative behavior to certain lyrics and genres has failed is testament to the fact that it's a fear-based agenda. My argument is not to say violent lyrics don't exist. The point is that you can't generalize an entire form of music or genre or art based on a tunnel vision kind of perception of it and ignore all the rest of it. Songs, whether they're rock or metal or hip hop, can also explore important topics such as politics, human emotions, relationships, and spirituality, and can even inspire and encourage philosophical or critical thinking. Now that we have discussed many of the common judgments and overgeneralizations about music, we will expand beyond the one-sided biased argument and look deeper and closer at the truth. The positive side and positive influence of music shouldn't be disregarded or overlooked just because some people don't understand it or are afraid of it. There's plenty of examples of music having a positive influence, contrary to the commonly talked about representation that music is bad or dangerous. According to People Magazine's article, Heavy Metal Fans Are More Well-Adjusted Than Their Peers by Alex Hagel, a study out of Humboldt State University examined this more closely, and they actually found that people that listened to heavy metal and punk music in the 80s actually turned out more well-adjusted and stable than their peers did. There's another article, The Power of Hip-Hop Culture by Sebastian Elglaby, which raises an interesting point because they found that with the kids that participated in the study, by the end of the study, they found that the problem was that a lot of the kids were just unaware of the positive side of hip-hop. So by the end of the study, the kids wound up being angry at the media because they felt like the media ignored the positive people in hip-hop that were using their art in a positive way and did nothing but provoke the negativity and the violence. Music in general has positive effects too. In the 80s, they targeted metal and rock. Now they tend to make hip-hop the scapegoat. You have to wonder if the stereotypes being portrayed are blinding people from looking at the actual subject objectively. There's a Huffington Post article called 5 Ways Music Improves Our Health by Jill Suddy, which provides plenty of examples of music doing remarkable and positive things. They even found that the stress-reducing power of music was actually greater than when they prescribed people prescription drugs to treat stress and anxiety. They found that music actually helped them more. There's countless studies that consistently find that music can help reduce anxiety, stress, and stimulate the brain in healthy ways that are actually beneficial and positive for us. It's undeniable and proven over and over that music has a wide variety of positive influences and qualities. Often this is overshadowed by fear campaigns and negative portrayals of music based on certain people's perceptions and closed-mindedness towards those art forms. It's important not to ignore the positive influence music can have now and in the future. Music provides so many things that have been scientifically proven to be healthy and beneficial for us. Music helps us heal. It helps us discover who we are. It encourages us to think. It exercises our mind and our spirits. The core of art, after all, is expression and self-expression. These things are critical to human development and well-being. We must include music that is thoughtful and thought-provoking and socially relevant in our discussions of music and the debate over its positive or negative influence. To ignore the entire picture and limit the scope to just what some people want to see does a great injustice to the actuality beyond that. It's important to keep freedom of expression in art protected and to keep freedom of speech intact in a society that aims to truly be a free society. The benefits and positive aspects of music far outweigh any negative and failed attempts to claim to the contrary. Music and art have always had a place in society that are essential to development and understanding. First, I discussed the negative and mostly false reputation music has gained due to bias and stereotypes. Second, I discussed all the positive and overlooked benefits music has, specifically by genre and in a general sense. Lastly, I stressed the importance of looking at the topic without a pre-existing bias and not in the tunnel vision. And I discussed the benefits and importance music has and the positive influence it can have on us. Music and the influence of specific genres and types of music are both positive and essential to human development from childhood to adulthood. I encourage you all not to get caught up in the stereotypes and misconceptions and not to judge a book by its cover regarding certain kinds of music. Doing so does a great injustice to the positive influence that music can have whether it's through the process of listening and experiencing it, or through the process of playing and creating it itself. Music, you can, like, again, you cannot do this and expect to get an accurate representation of the actuality of it. When we look at it without the blinders on, we see that the truth to it all is really quite the opposite of what so many that are afraid of it have been claiming and attempting and failing to prove all this time over and over and over again.